Welcome back to Harville. Barack Obama took some heat today from conservative Christian leader James Dobson. Dobson accused Obama of distorting the Bible, while some Muslim leaders, by the way, say they're being snubbed by Barack Obama. Pat Buchanan is enjoying the crossfire here that's facing Obama. He's an MSNBC political analyst, and Michael Eric Dyson is an Obama supporter and a Georgetown University professor preparing notes even now for that first day of class. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me talk about this, Pat. First of all, let's start with the Christian fight here. James Dobson, describe him, will you?
Well, Dobson really has clout as a Christian leader. He has 1,500 radio stations, or had them. He's got tremendous sway with an awful lot of people. However, he doesn't have the controversy attendant to his name that Pat Robertson or the Reverend Jerry Falwell did. He's a very powerful voice in the Christian community, and I'll tell you what I think he's doing, Chris. He has said he cannot vote for John McCain, and I think he's moving in another direction, in other words, to assist the conservatives by going after Barack Obama and driving his own constituency away from Barack Obama. Barack Obama sees his strength. I think he wanted to meet with Dr. Dobson.
Yeah.
And so Barack Obama is a very smart man if he went to try to meet with Dr. Dobson.
Well, Dobson's obviously not going to play ball because Dobson's out whacking him for his interpretation of the Sermon on the Mount, apparently. They're disputing. This is classic Christian debate here.
Well,
right,
yeah.
There's a lot of Christianities out there.
Yeah, right. Debating how many angels can dance on the head of a needle as they did in the Middle Centuries. The point is that Barack Obama has proved that he's willing to reach across the aisle, religiously speaking. I think that Mr. Dobson has taken offense to a speech that Mr. Obama made in 2006 where he said, look, we have to couch our arguments in terms that are universally appealing to all human beings who have moral sentiment. That is to say, it's not denying the legitimacy of Christianity. It happens to forge connections between Muslims and Christians and Jews and all people of faith in this country. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that anybody who takes offense at the attempt to forge that kind of coalition when we have a nation...
What's the counter-argument to pluralism, Pat?
It is. Well, the counter-argument is this. Ecumenism, ecumenical spirit to bring everybody together is a good thing. However, there are clear conflicts of right and wrong. Let's take with Dr. Dobson's case. He took up the issue of right to life and abortion. Either one side is wrong and the other right. They both can't be right. And what he's saying is, look, you cannot put an ecumenical spirit, bring us all together above right and truth, especially when it comes to innocent human life.
Well, but
it comes to a question of rights, and the Constitution is decided by the Supreme Court.
We know that,
but then how do you argue about, how do you have elections about it?
Well, this is all right, if you wanted to argue the Constitution, we know how that should be settled, I think, by constitutional amendment. But if you're arguing theology and right and wrong, Chris, we might disagree on say not only that, but homosexuality and homosexual marriage. We know how it's decided politically, but morally, Christians divide. Some of us believe it's morally wrong. I don't care what the voters say.
Well, that's what how do you prescribe human behavior, though? How do you stop a person from doing what you don't think they should be doing?
Well, as you know,
you put them in prison? Is that a definition of a good Christian? Someone who will put someone in prison for having an abortion? Is that a definition of a good Christian by your standards?
Well, here's the thing. To quote Thomas Aquinas, not everything that is immoral should be illegal. Okay? But however, it's a good question. You've got what should happen in the case of an abortion. I believe innocent life ought to be protected, and I do agree with the laws that existed in the 1960s. I believe they were overturned unconstitutionally.
Okay.
Well, as usual, the African-American perspective on religion, which has been obscured not only here in America, but across the world, has also been turned to. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted to use his Christian faith to make this a more just nation. He spoke to people who disagreed with him. White Christians who believed in killing people, who believed in murdering black people because they differed with them, not theologically. They had the same religious beliefs, but they had separate beliefs about our morality. So black people can never rest ultimate authority in white Christians who have proved to be willing to forego their religious beliefs in deference to their prejudices.
You didn't say it was okay to kill people.
No, but the Ku Klux Klan did. I'm saying the Ku Klux Klan did. All I'm suggesting to you is that black people who are Christians believe that we should reach across the borders to everybody because we don't believe in ultimately sanctifying one particular religious tradition, even though we are participating in that tradition. And to make the litmus test for whether Barack Obama is a Christian, whether he comes down on abortion rights or gay rights, misses the whole spectrum of moral and ethical concerns.
But you would argue that during the fight for abolition, that those people who took the contrary position were not being Christian, wouldn't you?
Well, they took what position? They said that
they supported slavery.
No. They said, no, Christians said that slavery was good. Many Christians argued that, and many other Christians argued it wasn't. I'm saying to you, let me say this. When two sets of Christians were fighting, when white Christians were trying trying to lynch black Christians, it was not the church that stepped in, it was the state. LBJ, JFK were just as important as people appealing to Jesus at that point. I
would say that he was playing that role in terms of the right to life movement.
Well, exactly.
He would say that he was intervening.
Your slavery argument, Chris, is a very good one. Let me talk for a second. Your slavery argument is a very good one. There's no doubt it was condoned and accepted by Christians all the way up into the 19th century. And the point is, was it intrinsically evil? I believe it was intrinsically evil, but it was something that Christians did accept. And there was a tremendous argument there, and it was one in which we couldn't say, well, look, you believe in slavery, we don't, if you want to practice it. It was something that had to be stopped. Christians believed.
And they found it in the Bible, too.
Well, there was when Christ talks about servants, who do you think he's talking about?
No, he said slaves obey your masters, and black people said, no, we're not going to do that. So I'm saying to you, the ultimate adjudicative force here is not simply biblical literalism, against which Mr. Obama rails. He's for creating ecumenism.
I think we'll be arguing 1,000 years what Christianity means to secular government. Let me ask you this. Is Barack Obama being put into a catch-22 here by being told by an article in the New York Times today suggesting he is doing something wrong by not showing up in mosques? If he gets his picture taken in a mosque, will that add to the belief by some of his critics who don't like what they believe to be his religious background that he's a Muslim?
Of course.
Will he walk into the trap?
But here's the point. The prejudice, the problem is not Barack Obama's. The prejudice is against Muslim brothers and sisters in this country, and therefore the smearing of them and Barack Obama by suggesting that somehow, for the average American out there, if Barack Obama were found out to be a Muslim, which he is not, and he is a Christian, that somehow he would have untoward beliefs, and that his American beliefs would be undercut.
According to the Pew Research poll, believe he is. I've seen higher numbers believe he is.
But I'm saying that the radical right wing has manipulated this to the advantage of them, and not being honest about Barack Obama's religious beliefs.
The radical right
wing starting to smile here, Pat. You know that you want to trap him into a mosque.
I don't want to trap him into a mosque. What he's doing is he's treating Muslim people very shabbily.
Oh my God!
He's driving them. He doesn't want to be associated with them. Reason he is
because of people who share your side of the aisle. Because people have made it such an offensive thing to be a Muslim that we can't even have an open argument about
the students talk, Professor. Look, the point is he's treating them shabbily because in a way he's got to, because if he's seen with Muslims, he will reinforce the impression he's a Muslim. And with a lot of Americans, that's fatal. So they are treating these people, frankly, the same way a lot of liberal folks treated African Americans. They say, look, don't show up at the rallies. We'll try to help you out. We got to win this first. That's exactly what's taking place.
He's responding to the rabid anti-Muslim feeling that's in this country since 9/11 and the knee-jerk reactionaryism, quite frankly, that has been perpetuated.
What would you do if you're his campaign manager?
Well, I would say this. You embrace all human beings. You are for the whole human race. Would you have your
picture taken in a mosque?
Well, he's going to have his picture taken. He's had his picture taken in a mosque. But the point is now, he's trying to now repudiate the nasty smear campaign that's going on.
Look what happened. I just want to say, my Exhibit A is he goes to East Africa, and God, Prince Charles could have gone to East Africa and got his picture taken in these costumes. Right. He gets his pictures taken in a local costume over there, and it's used to demonstrate he's some sort of third worlder or something, you know. I know what the game is.
But he's caving He's caving into the game, and he's treating people very badly when you take two women with scarves and say, get out from behind the podium.
It's a tightly wrapped message he's running on.
Well, when you talk to that Muslim congressman,
you know what?
Let him talk, Congressman.
Ellison of Minnesota certainly would understand. Here's my point.
He doesn't understand. Read the New York Times.
I'm telling you, there's anti-religious bigotry and sentiment that Barack Obama did not create. And now that we put the vacuum into which he responds, we pretend that we didn't create the situation against which he must respond. Your side of the aisle has done it.
Caliphate, Patrick J. Buchanan taking an unusual position once again, but I always am mystified your ability. You are a whirling dervish when it comes to taking positions around here. Pat Buchanan, Michael Clark Dyson, Professor at Georgetown.